Hi, in this tutorial I will go over some of the techniques to get the square type of the UV layout for human character. As you can see in my example here, I have a square UV layout for the face, one square layout UV for the arms, this is the body, and this is the arms. So they each take up a perfect square of the UV space. There are a couple of advantages to this technique. One is that it makes maximum use of the texture space, which gives you a denser texture. And then another advantage is that you can easily paint out your UV seams in Photoshop. If you do your textures in Photoshop, then it's easy to get, for example, if you paint on the left, something on the left, and then you can just flip horizontally and transform it to the other side, and it will be perfectly matching because each UV, like this UV on the left, corresponds to this UV on the right. They're perfectly on the same level. So there's one disadvantage to this technique, of course, is that you may get some stretching in certain spots. As you can see, maybe there's a little bit of stretching on the arm, but I think that type of stretching is negligible, and I think the advantages far outweigh the one disadvantage. So with this, let's go ahead and I'll walk you through each body part, how I approached it, and I'll show you the techniques that I used to get this UV layout. Okay, so let's get started with the head. Let's just duplicate this mesh and we'll hide the original and we'll work with the copy, and we'll move out the rest of the UVs out of the way, and so we just isolate the head itself. Just move them out of the way. So if I unwrap the UVs right now, it will give me something like this. As you can see, it's a nice and even layout. I mean, of course, there's a little bit of a different stretching in some parts. As you can see, the nose has larger UVs. I mean, the checker pattern shows me that there's a larger stretching here as opposed to the one on the neck. But anyway, let's go ahead and try to stretch it to 0 to 1 space. What I do in this case is I take the top UVs on the top of the head and I'll just pin them to the top of the UV texture space. So I'll just pin them here. And one important thing to do is if you want to snap UVs to the edge, you have to make sure that in the tool settings, if you double click in the tool settings, you have to uncheck retain component spacing. Otherwise, if you have this checked, it will snap UVs proportionally instead of just snapping UVs to the edge. For example, I'll show you here. You see, if I snap it here, it will not snap all the UVs to the edge, rather than it will snap just the pivot point. So we'll have to check this off. So let's take this the top row of the UVs, and we'll just stretch it like this, and we'll get the left side. Also, you can do just click on one point and double click to the didn't work to the other side, and then we'll snap this to the left. Let's move this one a little bit over so then we can snap this to the grid. And of course I'm showing you a little bit, it's a little bit rough way. I would do it a little bit more careful. I would check in the UV space which points I need to move a bit more carefully so I don't get a really heavy stretch. But you'll get the idea just by what I'm showing you here. And let's take these and snap them here. So once you get these UVs snapped, they will be you see they will be corresponding from left to right. And this is kind of like a little bit of a rough way I'm showing you, but you get the idea. So once I pin my UVs to the square, the borders, then I just take my everything else, all the other UVs that are in the center. I just go to the tool and smooth UVs. And here, for example, if you want to pin the borders, you can check this also. Like for example, if you just want to grab the whole thing, as you can see, it will just disregard the UVs that's on the border. And so then from here on, you just unfold and you see like how nice and even it will give you nice stretching. And then as you can see, there's a little bit of a problem area on the nose. So this is where the manual UV adjustment comes in. So you'll do I do a lot of self-modification, moving around by pressing the W for moving, and then while you hold B, you middle mouse click, and you can middle mouse drag the areas that you want to be affected. So from here you can also do the stretching like this way, and or the nose. This process takes a little while to get this done, but once you get it, you see like I'm stretching it in this area, and then let's close these out, and so you don't get as much stretching on the nose. And then you can see like these UVs now overlapping, so you do kind of the same thing here. You just grab some of these UVs that are messy, and you go to tool, smooth UVs, and you just unfold the affected area. And you see, so now it gives you nice and even UVs. And in the end, as I said, there are some UVs that are maybe not like corresponding here because I did like a little bit of a rough way, but you can easily fix that by mirroring the UVs from left to right. There's a tool in Maya 2017 which is a symmetrized UV tool, and so let's say we're happy with the, let me just get a couple of these stretched out so we get like a decent looking UV map. Okay, so let's say you're happy with this. Of course, you can tweak this out as much as possible, but let's say we're happy with this. So now we are ready to copy the UVs from left to right. So we just select the UVs and press this tool. Then we need to define the center edge, which is this is our middle. And so now I go, sorry. So if I paint on this side, it will copy the UVs that are on the left. So if I click here, it will copy whatever is on is on the left side. So sorry, that's the opposite way. If I, these will be copied from what's on the left. Okay, so let's undo this because I kind of like what was, how it looks. The right side looks better to me, so let's just kind of quickly paint these UVs here, and so it perfectly copies what's on the left. Sorry, what's on the right. Okay, so we copied these, and as you can see there's a little bit of stretching here, so we just go ahead and do another smooth here, unfold. Then fold or relax, you can experiment a bit, which gives you a better result. But anyway, you get the idea. You can tweak these UVs as much as possible, and you know, until you're happy with them. I used a lot of the soft modification tool, as I told you. I just grab, like, for example, one UV and stretch the affected area nearby, and for example I want to move this a little bit higher, right, and I want to move like this a little bit higher or lower, or move the ears a little bit more to the side. And so you just tweak these UVs until you're happy with them. So this is how I approached unwrapping the head, and let's move over to another part. Okay, so we just finished the head. Let's move over to unwrapping torso. Let's move the head UVs out of the way, and we'll grab the torso, and let's unwrap this one. So I have currently I have one UV seam in the back. Well, not one UV seam, but that's the main one, and then you have one around the neck. As you can see here, it goes around the neck here. I have the UV seam at the arms and at the legs, and one around the body until like this, the bottom here. So if we just unwrap this normally here, we just get something like this, and as you can see we also get a lot of wasted texture space. So how I did this one is, you know, I want to keep the front of the body without any seams, right? The back normally is not as important as the front, so we'll you see how in the front now it has a perfectly straight line here, which I like, and I want to keep the same thing in the back. So what I'll do now is I'll cut UVs in the front, then we'll unwrap the body, and then we'll sew it back together at the back, because it will give me exactly the same straight line as I have right now here. So let me show you. I go to cut UV edges here, I get a seam, and then let's sew it at the back. Now I just double click so I get the selected edge here, and go to move and sew UV edges, and I get something like this, right? So then I unwrap it. Oops, what did we get here? I accidentally grabbed parts of arms and legs. I don't know how that happened, but it grabbed some extra UVs, right? Okay, so we're clear now. So now we'll unwrap this, and as you can see, it's a nice straight line here. Let me just, not sure why it's grabbing all these extra UVs. Anyway, let's adjust this a little bit so it's the line is completely vertical, something like this. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, so this will be the straight line. Once I unfold it, it will give me the UV seam here, which will be on the outside of of the UV edges. So I just double click this again and we'll do the same process. We just cut the UV edges here and once again select the front of the body and move in sew edges. So now that it's nice and straight here, I just do a little bit. This will also require a little bit of tweaking. As you can see, it didn't really give me a perfect square, but these lines are straight. So what I'll do now is I'll just move them manually a bit. So let's say I just work with the left side, and then we'll do the same thing as I showed you on the head. We'll just mirror the UVs from one side to another. So we'll keep this line here, and then we'll select some of these UVs here and kind of just roughly put them where they're supposed to be. So then once again I do the similar thing that I showed you with the head. I snap them to the edge of the UV space, and let's also just double click this from here to here. It's just not selecting. Okay, so I got the edge, and once again I'm snapping to the edge of the UVs. And at this point, let me relax them a bit. Let me grab these UVs and actually go to Smooth Tool and unfold them a bit. So as you can see now, they're getting a little bit more even. Evenly laid out. Where's my Smooth Tool? Oh yeah, it's on the side. Fold and unfold this. Alright, so now we need to mirror what I have on the left and mirror to what I have on the right. To do this, let's grab one of these edges that is supposed to be the center line. Actually, let's just grab the whole center line and snap to the middle, so we know this is the center line. And unfold this a bit. No, that didn't work. Okay, let's just mirror what we have right now, and then we'll relax them once we have a mirror, because this this UV line is already snapped to the edge, so we just mirror this whole thing. So now we select the center line, and we'll need to copy the left side to the right side. So as you can see, it completely copies what we have there. So okay, so now once we have this, we'll need to relax it one more time. Relax this, unfold this. You can see now it gives us a nice unfolded area, and we'll need to. Sometimes what I do here in this, as you can see, there's a problem area here, and if I keep my UV borders on, it will not touch this. So you can either move these UVs manually, either one by one, or you can just uncheck this, the pin borders, and you can grab the whole thing again and click apply. And once you didn't grab it. Okay, apply, and then you unfold it. You can do this, and then you can just grab those UVs again and snap them back to the grid. So they will be more or less even here. And then the same thing here. We'll unfold these guys. I'm not sure why it's giving me this problem area here. But what we can do is just cut. For some reason it's not unfolding properly, so we can cut that part and try to unfold it again. Still not giving me a proper unfold. Let's just try this tool. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. So we just can sew it back together. And grab these edges and use move and sew. Alright, so let's mirror once again. Select the UVs, mirror. This is our center line. And let's mirror what we have on the left. Alright, then we click this pin border tool again, hit apply, and relax it once again, the problem area that we had. As you can see here, we have another problem area again, so we grab these the UVs that are also on the edge, and we'll smooth this out or relax. You just try what gives you a better result, or you may even try to move them around manually if that gives you a better result. Even you can do just one by one and then relax the nearby area. For example, just grab one of these verts, and then you can also, get the idea here. See how it looks here, the problem areas. So once we get this, then we pin the borders again, hit apply, and then fold this again. So as you can see here, it gives me a pretty nice unwrap. Maybe I will need to tweak some of this area a little bit more, but you get the idea of how to do this. So once we're happy with just one side, then we'll do the same thing as I showed you earlier. Once again, we just copy the side that we like. So this side we like, so then we'll paint here. You will copy the side that we like, and then you get the perfectly mirrored UVs from one side to another side. It seems like it didn't completely snap, so I'll need to select those edges again, and oh no, I know what happened here. I didn't unwrap them here. Let's hit this and then fold them here in this area. Yeah, so now we get a better unwrap. Move them inside, and let's snap it to the edge. Okay, so here you can see how I approached the UV layout on the body. As I mentioned before, you can tweak this out as much as possible to your liking. I'm just giving you a rough idea of how it's done. So let's move over to the arms and legs next. Okay, so moving on to the arms, let's give it a quick unwrap. And once again, if we just unwrap it by itself, it's a nice unwrap. But then again, I think there's quite a bit of wasted texture space here, as like if you compare it to this. Like left and right, you can see the difference that this one occupies pretty much everything. And as you can see here, there's still quite a bit of space left untouched. So to get this kind of result, as you can see on the right side, it gives like a really nice kind of like a cylinder type shape. To do this, I use the unitize function in Maya. What I do is I cut the UV seam at about where the palm begins. So if we take this arm, you can see this is about where the palm begins, at the wrist. I will cut it at the wrist. So this edge, cut UV edges, and once I get this part, it's sort of like a cylindrical shape. If you look at it, it's I mean, of course, there's some parts like sticking in and out, but in general, if you think of it like an abstract way, it's kind of like a cylinder. And what unitize function does is it takes each separate polygon. Let me show you. So let me convert these to faces, and I'll hit the unitize. So what it does, it takes each individual polygon and it maps it on a UV space from 0 to 1. And then you can see each polygon has a border. So what I have to do now is to sew all of those polygons back together. But I have to leave the seam out. So at the seam, we don't get the sew function, right? And my seam is, as you can see, the seam was continuing here. So I convert these two edges, and I deselect the part where the seam continues. So it will be this line right here, all the way to the edge, and all the way to the end of the shell. So once I deselect that, all the other polygons, they will be sewn together. So now I go to move and sew, and that didn't work. And the reason that didn't work well is seems like I didn't select some of the edges. Yeah, let's I think it took some other edges on body. Oh yeah, it took this the other edge of the wrist on the other side of the wrist. So let's try that again. We'll go to move and sew, and once again there's something that's not right. It's still sticking to something. Let me see what's wrong here. I don't seem to find the problem, why it's doing that. the edges are deselected in the right areas. Oh yeah, this one. I think it's still sticking to this, so we'll need to grab this and deselect this. Alright, so this should do the trick. Moving so. Okay, so now you can see it gave me like a perfect rectangle for this, what would have been like the cylinder, right? So let's just rotate this. I'm grabbing the whole body again. Let's just grab this part. Put it back in our UV space. So what this does is, you see it took every polygon and pretty much like turned it into a square, right? So now we get like a really even layout. What you can do further here is, of course, let's try to fix this elbow issue here, which gives us kind of like a little bit of a overlapping UVs. So we'll just grab this and go to our tool and smooth. We'll just unfold this, so now it's nice and even. We can even grab like neighboring UVs to get a little bit of a more even smoothing. But another issue that it might be giving us is because, as you can see on the arm, we have some of the squares that are, you know, a little bit more square, some of the polygons that are more like rectangular. So that's why it's giving us like some of the stretching. And what we can do here is, if we select our shell, we can go to our unwrap option, unfold, and we need to go to this legacy option, and we click vertical. This unfold is mostly used, I saw a lot of people using it on unwrapping such things as rope. If you unfold the rope, especially if you have like a curved surface, and you try to UV this curved rope, it will give you something completely something that it's hard to use. But if you just do the same thing, you use the unitize function and unfold just vertical, it will just give you an unfold in one direction. So if we hit this, you see it gave us it kept all the vertical lines in a straight line and gave us the unfold that we required in the vertical direction. So now it looks much better. But the thing is, now you also need to keep in mind that you get these uneven surfaces, not surfaces, but the UVs that we wanted to keep square. What I did in this to deal with this issue is it's a bit of a tedious work, but what you do here is you select each row at a time and you straighten them out like so. It's a bit tedious, you go one by one, but it gives you a nicer UV unfold. I mean, it keeps everything in one line. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to do your textures in Photoshop, then you get the left side corresponding with the right side. And then you kind of have to manually take row by row and see how much stretching you get. So for example, we're dealing with this one, so you just kind of like you have to manually have a look of how far you have to go. So it's a bit tedious, but if you're making a character that you will be reusing, I mean a base mesh that you will be reusing a lot, I think it pays to take your time and do it right the first time, and then you can reuse it many times, and in the end it will pay you dividends. So for example, you can also try to unfold this a little bit more. If we go back to our smooth, you can unfold it a bit, so it will give you a bit more averaged out UVs, and then you continue in the same fashion. You just use the scale tool to kind of keep them in one horizontal line, and you just go line by line. At least that's how I approached it. If anybody has better suggestions, I'm really eager to learn if anybody has better ways to do this, but that's how I approached my model. So this way you get like a really nice and even edge. So you'll have to just go edge by edge and even these out as well. So that's the cylindrical part of the arm, and then how to deal with the hand itself, or the part with the fingers, is by the way, where are they? Here they are. There's also some manual work required for this. So I wanted to keep the fingers all kind of straight, so they go just one way, that you don't have the fingers sticking out in all directions. So there's also quite a straightforward way to do it, is to just grab the UVs that you need, and just grow selection until you get the finger either this way, or just grab them manually, and you just rotate them. Rotate them to your liking. See where they're supposed to be, something like this. And then I also used a lot of soft modification tool. Oh, there's this tool also quite nice. It's called Grab UV tool. It also gives you just like sort of like a brush, and you can do this. You can smooth them out, and you just take each individual finger, and in the same fashion you move them how you want to be, how they want to appear on the UV map. So there's some birds sticking out. You either move them like this manually, use this tool, and then to smooth this area out, once again we use this smooth UV tool. And let's also grab the vertices that are at the edge, so you get like a smoother unfold in that area. So that's how you do it. It's a bit of work, but as I said earlier, it pays dividends to do this work once, and then you don't really have to worry about it again if you will be reusing this mesh. And then unfold this area. So you get the idea of how I approach the fingers as well. And once you're happy, for example, you lay this out and it looks the outside palm. Yeah, this is the outside of the hand. This is the palm itself. So this will probably look similar to the left, as you can see in the example here. So once you tweak everything manually, you just select this edge and the UV. So let me scale them up so they're a little bit more even. Something like this, right? And once you're done, you just move and sew them together. Additional. And I often use this smooth UV tool at the areas where like I connected. Those are probably, they will be stretched out a bit, so I just give it a little bit of unfold there. And then once again, you can, if you want to, you just take those the rows of UVs and you can straighten them out this way. So you get the idea of how I approached unfolding the arm. And let's go over to unfolding the legs. Okay, so the last part of the body is the legs, and it uses the same technique as I used with the arms, which is the unitized method. I take the cylindrical part of the leg, not including the foot, just this the part that resembles the cylinder, and I go to unitize, which lays out all the polygons to the perfect square. If I grab these, you can see that this is all these polygons are mapped to the perfect square, and they're all separate, as you can see. So now what we have to do is sew them back together, but we cannot sew the borders of the seams, so they don't stick to the like torso, for example. So what we do now is we select all the faces, rather the edges. We need the edges, and deselect the parts which are not supposed to be sewn together, here and the ankle. So this whole part, this part should be from here to here, should be all sewn. So we select this, but we deselect the inside part, and this also needs to be deselected. Alright, so now we're ready to sew it back together. Go to polygon, move and sew. And it seems I still didn't deselect something at the, yeah, I didn't. Let's deselect these edges. Okay, so now we're ready to move and sew. And as you can see here, it gives a pretty nice UV layout, but because there was some of these polygons, they were not like these polygons at the knee. You can see they're not like perfectly going around. The edge flow is not like a square per se, but it's shaped like in a little bit different manner. Like it goes this way, so it kind of, I guess, cannot really sew them properly together. But this is where manual tweaking comes in, and we'll need to do some of those adjustments manually. It's the very same principle as I used with the arms. And we'll just do some manual tweaking. Like, for example, we're happy with the upper part, and so we'll just put the upper part like so. Let's deselect the part that we already like, and we'll move this part to fit a little bit into a square. So move this around like this. Let's relax this area. Go to tool, smooth. Kind of unfold these guys a bit. And then once again, we'll have to grab the border UVs and snap them to the edge, so they're nice and even. And grab these. And then relax these guys a bit. So as you can see, it gives it like a pretty nice unwrap. But then again, if you want these edges to be symmetrical, I did the same thing as I did with the arm. It's a bit of work. It's a bit tedious. But if you want these to be on the same horizontal line, you'll have to do a little bit of manual tweaking. And this type of tweaking will also give you a nicely corresponding like left to right match. So if you paint in Photoshop something here, this will be exactly the same here. So it's a lot easier to avoid UV seams when you paint your textures in Photoshop. So we'll just have to go by hand and tweak these manually. And same here, you can also grab these vertical lines and tweak them out a bit manually. So you get the idea of how this is done. And as for the feet, it's a very similar idea as I did for the hands. Like for example, you want like the feet be the toes stick out kind of straight instead of like in all different directions. So you just grab the UVs that you want to be more straight, and it's just manual work at this point. And grab those UVs. I like this tool, use quite a lot. Either the soft modification tool or this tool is it helps in grabbing large chunks of the UVs. Grab these guys, do the same thing, move them around, take this pinky toe, rotate it so it's looking forward, looking straight, and then the affected UVs will need to be smoothed out. So you take the smooth tool, and that doesn't like that. Let's just try a small area. Yeah, so you'll see sometimes it will not really like what you did, so you'll just have to do like a little bit manual work, and then once you get enough stretch and move some of these words closer to each other, then they will most likely they will unfold a little better. Yeah, so as you can see, well, not perfectly, but yeah, it does require some manual work, and yes, it is a bit tedious, but what is not tedious? This is 3D, and we all love laying out UVs. Let's pin the border. Let's unfold and grab the border edge, and gonna try to give them a bit of a space from each other. So let's try it again. We're supposed to pin border, right? So pin the border, unfolding. Okay, so it's, as you can see, it's getting better. So then you just try to smooth them out a bit manually. And yes, it does take some time to do the manual work, but once you get like a nice looking UV layout, then it's there to stay, and you'll be using the model for quite a bit. Unfold until, so you get the idea once again how I approached this laying out the UVs on the foot. So once you're happy with that, you just move it a bit here, and let me just straighten this out. I quickly show you how you can also do symmetrical. You can copy your UVs from like left to right. So let's say you're happy with the layout of both feet. Let's quickly unfold these. Alright, so let's say you're happy with these, and maybe they're not as straight as here, but I took my time, and it was well, took a bit of time to lay them out nicely like that with minimal stretching. So anyway, I'll show you how to quickly copy the UVs that you laid out on one leg to the other one. So what I would do here is, of course, I want to maximize my space, and later you will need, if you want to, you can snap your UVs to the edge so they're like nice and neat, like so. So okay, so now we just want to copy our UVs on the leg from left leg to the right. Okay, so nothing sticking out, and here we go. We select the UVs, go to the Symmetrize tool. We need to select both Then we'll select our middle, and just paint out what I'll have on the right side. I will copy what I have on the left side. So I'm copying all the UVs of my leg. And same for the foot. Alright, so here we go. All the UVs are nice and squared. Of course, this one was not done as I didn't take my time, but you get the idea of how I approached it. And if you have any questions, you can write it in the comments and I'll try to respond to you.